Hi, this is George Alger with the Two Green Energy Video Report, and I'm speaking with Craig Shields. Welcome, Craig.
Happy to be here.
Craig is the editor of Two Green Energy itself, and he is also the author of Renewable Energy Facts and Fantasies. It is a #1 best-selling energy book on Amazon. All right, Craig, today we're going to speak about peak oil.
Okay.
First of all, can you just give me a thumbnail sketch on what it is?
Right. Well, peak oil is the concept that we have peaked in terms of the maximum oil production in a given unit of time. So in other words, we, depending on what you believe about this thing, we are either approaching or we have passed the point at which we can no longer increase production of oil, regardless of how much we would like to do that. So this becomes important because the supply, you have supply and demand generate the price, and you have demand that right now is simply going up. You've got enormous populations of India and China moving to becoming much more middle class, much more interested in consumerism, driving cars, and so forth. There's a total of 2.7 billion people in those two populations alone, not to mention Indonesia and so forth, other places that are undergoing the precise same demand increase.
Okay, so we have demand going up, we have a finite supply of
Right.
oil, but this, I understand, isn't defined where everyone agrees with how much oil there actually is.
It is true, and this is where the interesting thing comes. Whom do you believe and why? So the first interview in this book is Matt Simmons, a terrific guy who left us prematurely just 6 months or so ago. A great sadness to us all. But he was probably the world's foremost expert on the subject and did a ton of independent research on behalf of his own consulting company. And he spent the better part of 2 hours with me educating me on which oil fields are suffering depleted production, how do we know, what's in it for these various countries to tell us the truth, how do you verify this stuff independently. But he has me convinced that a couple of things. So the North Sea, Saudi Arabia, Mexico are all independently undergoing a depletion of the oil production capacity, leaving us with what are referred to as unconventional. So there's shale oil and tar sands. There's a lot of oil left in the ground. The problem is that the reason they call it unconventional is it's unconventional. In other words, it requires non-standard and extremely expensive techniques, both financially and ecologically, to get that stuff out of the ground.
Okay, so in terms of the impact on the world and in relation to its need for energy and the increasing demand, is this being felt now? Is it anticipated to be felt in the next couple years, or is there any opportunities to figure that out even?
Well, it's interesting. The people who believe in this, and I'm one, I believe in it pretty much only because of what I'm told and what I've read. I haven't done my own research. I haven't traveled around with my own, equipment and so forth and so on. So I'm pretty much a reporter, I guess you could say, on behalf of the scientists and consultants whom I interview. But I do believe that we are seeing the effects of it now, and in a great number of different ways. One, of course, is just the escalation of crude prices going through 90 on its way to $100 a barrel as we speak, prices at the pump mirroring that increase. People from the oil industry saying that you're going to see higher gasoline prices for whatever reason. Interestingly, the oil industry itself normally gives very kind of glib, smooth, ultra smooth explanations of how there's plenty of this stuff in the ground, and there's at least 100 years, and you got to trust us. I love the guy who said, I can't remember whom he told this, but somebody in this book, he goes, just trust us. You want renewable energy, we're the people to do it. We are the energy industry. You want wind and photovoltaics developed, we're the people to do it. And the guy said, well, maybe this is true. I said, are you kidding? These people don't necessarily, not only do they not tell the truth about this, but I mean, they have no interest in getting everybody all in an uproar about the fact that we're running out of oil, which we clearly are. They have no interest in solving this problem until they've sucked the last, molecule of crude out of the ground.
All right, so just as a note on that, ultimately they would be interested, i.e. the energy industry would be interested in getting into any type of energy that will replace oil that they can't make money on anymore. But the point I believe you're making is also that they're not going to want to do it until the end, so they can.
Right, precisely. Well, the rest of these things, renewable energy, and I do want to be sympathetic. I really try to be, able to look at both sides of an issue at the same time. I pride myself on that. And looking at it, if I were the VP of anything at Exxon, if I had my 401k that I was hoping to leave to my grandchildren in Exxon Mobil stock or Chevron or Shell or whatever, I would have to say that there is really no trajectory for an oil company doing the rest of this stuff. It's not their core competency. There's no reason in the world we should demand of Exxon to go into the solar business. They don't know the first thing about it. I mean, from a PR perspective, Chevron is investing in about that much of renewable energy, a solar farm in Central California. From a PR perspective, I understand it, but from a business perspective, it's not their core competency, and it's not where they're going to make money. The other point about this is people commonly refer to solar as the people's energy. Now, that's not what you want to hear if you're an oil monopoly or even a power utility. So, in other words, solar has the ability for everybody to have solar panels on their roof, and they use what they use, and they sell the rest back to the grid, or they don't. But you can have tens of millions of independent power production farms in the United States alone. So there's being fair about this thing, if I were the oil industry, I'd be having, no wonder they've got 7,000 lobbyists. They've got 13 lobbyists for every senator and representative in Washington, D.C. That's a lot of human beings in sharp cars and attaché cases zipping around the Beltway, extracting favors on behalf of an industry who's going to need those favors, and they know it.
Wow. Okay, so specifically with peak oil, if the energy company is going to move in the direction of renewables at the very end, and yet it'll benefit mankind to move sooner, would you say that they're actually more of a detriment to handling or moving forward towards renewable energy now?
Well, I personally think so. I'm not one of these kind of militants on this subject. As I say, I understand both sides of the coin. I think that it's up to us. A good example of this occurred in the 2005-2006 region, where under the Bush administration, where the NRDC, the National Resource Defense Council, all of a sudden realized that the Department of the Interior, the Bureau of Land Management, was rubber stamping leases on public land for the oil companies. They had gotten 74,000 consecutive grantings of these oil leases at enormously attractive rates. We, the taxpayer, make far less per dollar off an oil lease than we do off of any other use of public lands leased to a private company. So the NRDC wasn't too happy about that, and I interviewed a woman who had spent 35 years of her life, very senior litigator, just fighting cases like this, saying, baloney, I'm putting a stop to this. Not a young lady, but a fighter. I wouldn't want to go toe-to-toe with her, I can tell you that much.
All right, so we're just about out of time. Anything else you want to add about peak oil?
Well, I think it's a subject. Matt Simmons says, I said, oh, well, this is one of the reasons to move away from fossil fuels. And global warming. He goes, yeah, all of those things are good. These are reasons we should. Peak oil is the reason we have to.
Good conclusion.
Thank you.
All right. That's it for this segment of Two Green Energy.